Greetings, everybody. I'm Larry Williams, the Director of CARMA, the Consortium for the Advancement of Research Methods and Analysis in the Rouse College of Business at Texas Tech University. Today is September the 16th, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to another version of CARMA Quick Chat. May know that with our quick chats, I take advantage of the opportunity to have a quick chat with our distinguished contributors to CARMA. In today's case, we are welcoming our webcast presenter for an upcoming event. Just as quick background, if you don't know about CARMA, we are a university-based center at Texas Tech. We've been in existence in 1997 and been doing webcasts since 2004. We have an institutional membership model in which universities join to have access during the year to a set of webcast lecture, panel sessions, and other things that we deliver live, and then for most of them make recordings in our video library. And we also have an active short course program. We're very happy to say we support quantitative and qualitative methods of interest for micro and macro scholars. And so today it's my pleasure to have a chat with Elizabeth or Bess Rouse from Boston College, who's going to be giving a webcast in a couple of weeks on October the 3rd. That will start at noon Eastern time, and you can find information about CARMA, her webcast, and all the things that we do on our website, karmattu.com. Bess, appreciate you taking the time from your schedule to hang with me a bit, and let's get the chat going. So I'm always interested in how people end up where they are. So what was it that led you to become a professor?
Yeah, well, first, thank you for doing this with me and inviting me to be a part of this. I'm really excited about it. When I graduated from college, I had kind of two competing tracks going at that time. So I'd done brain and cognitive science as an undergrad, and then that kind of led me to do brain imaging research for a number of years as a research assistant. And then the other track I had was I was a semi-professional modern dancer. And so that led me into the nonprofit art world. And so for a number of years, I was kind of toggling between both of those. And so I would do some research in the mornings and then go and do rehearsals and classes and performances at nights and on the weekends. And at the time, I thought I was going to get a PhD in clinical psychology. And I really loved the research, but I worked with a lot of people who were really great at what they were doing. And I kind of realized I didn't have that same motivational drive for that topic in particular.
Mhm.
And at the same time, I was being exposed to all these really challenging issues in the nonprofit world and organizational challenges. And so when I realized you could get a PhD in management, I was like, this is the perfect marriage of these two things. I get to do research and I also get to think about organizational problems. And so that's kind of how I ended up where I was. And I didn't really think about management as an undergrad or anywhere until I got sort of into the world of nonprofit arts.
Yeah. Well, it seems as though, if I understand your Vita correctly, that you've spent a lot of time in the Boston area. And so, of course, everybody in management knows that Boston has a great qualitative methods tradition. So that must be an exciting environment for you to participate in as your career got started. So, along that route, when was it that your qualitative interest emerged?
Yeah. So given this background in brain and cognitive science, I was much more quantitative before I went into the PhD program. And so I was one of these people that I think now people that have a much better sense going into PhD programs about what they're getting into. But I was one of these people who had a lot of sort of background skills that were helpful, but I didn't have a really good sense of what I was getting into exactly. And so I knew the kind of questions I wanted to study, and I didn't quite
Mhm.
understand how quantitative methods would get at all of that. And I was interested in kind of the messiness and holding on to kind of the messiness of organizational life. And so I just ended up in a program that was extremely strong in developing qualitative scholars, a number of really high profile qualitative scholars that I was able to learn from. And it fit with the questions I wanted to ask, and it fit with some skill sets I had. At another point, I thought I was going to be a science writer. So I had done a lot of interviewing and writing. And so those are really key for qualitative research. So it was kind of this place where all of these things came together. And to your point, now I'm really lucky to continue my career in Boston, where and there's a number of schools with a lot of great qualitative scholars. So it's like
Oh,
this,
yeah.
it's a very stimulating environment to be a qualitative scholar.
Yeah, yeah. Well, going back to John Van Manen, who was one of our webcast presenters back when I was at Wayne State, and Karma's hosted short courses in person at BC for several years before the pandemic. So, as your career got started and you started building upon these qualitative interests and trying to get your research published, were there particular challenges you faced in your efforts to get your qualitative work published?
So I don't know if they're qualitative specific, but obviously publishing research generally is pretty challenging. And so I had a bit of, I don't know, you call it luck, but I had some smoother publication processes earlier in my career. And then I tried to publish my dissertation, and that became a battle with myself mostly.
Uh-huh.
So there was a number of times where I had to kind of learn how to let that go, work on other projects, revisit it, come back to it multiple times. And I think one of the things that I was lucky is I had this great data that I loved every time. Like I would go and actually listen to the interviews again to get re-energized by the people I talked to. And so that kind of kept me engaged with it. But I don't think those challenges were particularly to qualitative research, but the
Mhm.
publication process is a challenge, right?
Yeah, yeah. Um, so I noticed as I was reading through the different substantive areas that it seems as though that some of your work features an interest in creativity, and I suspect you've developed a pretty good knowledge base about creativity and the creative processes. And I just was thinking as I read that, wondering if you bring that into or how does it impact how you approach your teaching and your research.
Yeah, so in terms of research in particular, I think my process, I bring this kind of lens that I feel like is really important about just prototyping things all the time. Like I don't get overly hung up on making things perfect.
Mhm,
And I think moving through and thinking about, I'm always asking myself, like, if I had to write a paper today, what that paper look like, even if it's like after the first interview. And
mhm,
so I think that process of thinking about just how to move sort of quickly through things so that you're constantly moving but revisiting, I think is something I learned from studying the creative process that I bring to my own work. And then in terms of teaching, my teaching is very joined with this topic. So I teach a course called Idea Work that I designed, which kind of combines some creativity stuff, some entrepreneurship stuff, and it's for undergrads. And so that I pull in my research, I pull in some of my data sometimes if it matches the topic. So those that all of that is kind of working together really well right now.
yeah. So, on a slightly different topic, we've just recently here at Tech come through our comprehensive exams for our doctoral students. And it's like every year we get the sense that some things are working and some things aren't. And it's not something that we talk a lot about with our colleagues. So I just was wondering if you could share how it is. Your school does a great job of training students. How is it that you approach the methods part of your comprehensive exam process?
Yeah, and so as you know, these things are always changing and tweaking, right? Historically, what we've been doing up until this point is, so we have three. 3 different days, and one of those days is a methods day. And
Mhm.
so for that methods day, our students get 2 questions to pick from, and then they answer 1 question, and they have about 8 hours to write on that. And that question usually combines some version of qualitative and quantitative work.
Uh-huh.
Um, and yeah, so that's kind of how we've been doing it at this point. I think we're facing things that everybody's facing around AI and how to think
Yeah,
about that and how to train people that way. So we're sort of having conversations about that and how to think about that at this point.
yeah. Do you do a closed book? Or are they allowed to have all
So
this?
right now they're all open. It's all open book, and they can
Yeah,
take it wherever they want. And sort of it's been that way. So we'll see. I mean, we have to keep thinking about how that's going to work, I think, in the future.
yeah, yeah. Well, one of the things that happens to the best in our game is that they get involved in editorial work. And that's been true of you both with AMJ and AMR. And I'm always interested in how that experience uh, leads a person and impacts the person in their own research or their own writing. So, has your experience been different than kind of what you thought it would be? And do you think it impacts now, based on your experiences, does it impact how you approach our craft?
Yeah, so I think again, I've been really lucky to be in departments with a lot of pretty prominent editors who've taken editorial work very,
Mhm.
very seriously. And so I think watching them and talking to them, I had a general sense of what the work would be like. I think it was hard to though know the actual experience of kind of what it feels like to have that onslaught of papers and kind of manage that process for yourself. I think also rejecting papers really is never very fun, and it's like always psychologically hard to do. So I think that experience is kind of challenging. And then the other part that I think I didn't understand as clearly was the number of asks you have to make for people to engage as reviewers, especially
Yeah.
when they're busy and tired, and all of us are sort of struggling to keep up with things generally. And so to have to kind of keep asking people for help, I felt, like that's a challenging thing to do. So I think that opened up my eyes to like this need for us all to kind of participate in service and contribute to this publication process because it's the only way our research keeps going. Um, in terms of my own sort of writing and research, I think it maybe has helped my doctoral students a little bit, maybe because I think I've gotten a quicker set of criteria that I can apply.
Uh-huh.
And I think I worry for myself that I've gotten sort of overly critical on applying those things. Like I think I've developed this aesthetic and sense that what the bar is, and so I'm constantly kind of judging my own work at this extremely high bar, and maybe my doctoral students work too. So I'm trying to constantly be easier with myself. Of like, this doesn't have to be perfect, but we want to get it as good as it can.
Uh-huh.
But a lot of those ideas about those criteria came together in this last FTE, the AMJ editorial qualitative people put together. So a lot of those insights were things that we thought of together, and I think they're important. So that's one of the things I will talk about too when I give my seminar
Yeah,
lecture.
good. Yeah. Well, that's a great transition. As I indicated at the beginning, we're chatting with you because on October 3rd, you're going to be giving a webcast lecture for us. Can you give a little bit fuller description of what you're going to be talking about?
Sure. So when you asked me to do this, I was thinking about something that I was thinking about. It felt like a hot topic for me or something that was pressing in my brain. And that was the idea that qualitative research is kind of notorious for taking a long time. Now, I don't know if it actually takes longer time than quantitative research,
Hmm.
but it has that reputation. And yet we have these very stringent publication requirements and pressures. And so what I wanted to think about is how do we do high quality, efficient qualitative research? And to me, that has to do a lot with the choices we make up front about the context we pick, the sampling, the way we design our protocols, and how we keep kind of the paper in mind as we're going through this process. So I think there's things we can do upfront to help with that process, and then quick tweaks we can make as we get right into the field. So those are some of the topics that I'm going to spend time talking about in the lecture.
All right. Well, we will very much be looking forward to it. There's more information about her lecture and all of our events on the Karma website. Bess, Rouse, I appreciate your time, and I will very much look forward to your webcast in a couple of weeks. Thank you,
Thank,
everybody.
thank you.